Meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. This meeting is an in-person meeting held at the location listed above, which is 870 Colfax in Benton Harbor, Michigan. Questions may be submitted beforehand to natalie.singer@bhas.org or presented in person during the public comment section as indicated in the agenda. Board members may be contacted through the emails listed below. Requests for special assistance, including for persons with disabilities, may be sent to natalie.singer@bhas.org. I call this meeting to order officially at 6:39 p.m. We'll begin by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary Triplett, can you please call the roll?
President Robinson,
Present.
Vice President Bowen, Secretary Triplett, present. Treasurer Gavin,
Present.
Trustee Rocket Martin,
Present.
Trustee Bradley, Trustee Doyle.
Present.
Madam President, a quorum has been established.
All right, next up, we have approval of the agenda. As promised, our only item of business for today is the Benton Harbor Area Schools 2026 through 2028 partnership agreement review. And then, of course, we have our obligated public comments and then announcements and adjournment. So at this particular time, I'll ask, is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second or support?
Second. Motion.
The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Rocket Martin. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none. Secretary Triplett?
President Robinson,
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Treasurer Gavin,
Yes.
Trustee Rocket Martin,
Yes.
Trustee Doyle,
Yes.
motion carried.
All right, next up, we have review of our board norms, the Board of Education norms for Benton Harbor Area Schools. We will treat each other with respect. We will listen to learn. We will refrain from side conversations. We will use our time wisely, starting and ending our meetings on time. We will challenge ideas, not people. We will ask questions when in doubt. There will be no surprises at the board table. We will practice the 7 norms of collaboration. Those are pausing, paraphrasing, posing questions, putting ideas on the table, providing data, paying attention to self and others, and presuming positive intentions. Next up, we have public comment on agenda items. There appears to be no one here, but I'll call just for standard requirements. Is there anyone here that would like to make a public comment on agenda items? Hearing none, we'll proceed. Our standard protocol as of 9/13/2022, all comments will be limited to 2 minutes per trustee per topic. I'm going to suspend the rules temporarily if there's no objection. I know that this is a topic that'll require more discussion than one comment for 2 minutes. So I'll just ask that you at least keep your comments to 2 minutes at a time, and then we'll have discussion as we need to. Our first item and only item under board business is the Benton Harbor Area Schools 2026-2028 partnership agreement. So we do have a draft that the district anticipates to be submitted. Yes, ma'am.
Possible to have that linked in the agenda?
Yeah, she can send, you can go ahead and link it, Ms. Singer. Is it feasible to do it now?
I like to do queries and things. I can do that with you. It should be a public. It's okay. I'm glad I had nothing embarrassing.
Okay.
As stated previously, we do have highlighters, so as you're going through on your hard copy, if there's anything that you want to highlight as a note to come back to or to add as a notation, this will assist us in doing so. And then I know that the first few pages are standard. What our benchmarks and outcomes table is on the 11th page. However, I am gonna kind of go through each of the pages. And then I would ask if the board can do me the honor of assisting me as we read through. We can take turns and kind of read through the document. Yes, ma'am.
Before we even do that, I'm wondering if we can get clarity, because initially we were under the understanding that if we satisfy the partnership agreement, that would be the end of that. Was there, like, I'm trying to understand why we are even here, like in this moment of having to go through this again? Will we always be in a partnership? What's the difference between satisfying the qualification and,
So you satisfy the requirements of your 3-year agreement, and I think what we didn't understand the initial time is that at the end of that 3-year period, when they rerun all of the districts in the state, that bottom 5%, then we'll have to do the partnership agreement. So this is something, even if we meet all of the expectations, if we are still in that bottom 5%, we'll still cycle into another 3-year term for the partnership agreement.
okay, and so with that in mind, I guess what I'm wondering is, what is the difference between satisfying it and not? Because I saw somewhere in here where it talks about reconstituting the school. Right, and so does that mean that if we don't satisfy it, will they be able to, in their words, reconstitute? To me, that means restructuring our school district, which can mean, I think the states of it, I would like us to be clear on before we even get started.
I-
If possible.
Okay, so I remember that was a question that we asked previously, but that was 3 years ago, so I don't have the answer to that question at this time. I can ask that either Dr. Griffin elaborate. I know she's met with them pretty frequently as to that piece of the agreement, or we can either send for clarity to get some clarification prior to Thursday. I don't feel comfortable at this particular time providing clarification on that section.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so
Madam President,
yes, sir.
just for clarification purposes, well, I think that if I do remember and the reason that I was so alarmed was because last year, during one of the partnership agreement meetings, the partnership agreement had a base level that everybody was expected to meet. And I think there was one area in particular that we did not, where the percentage and whatever they were asking us to do, that rolled us over into having to go into the next phase of the partnership agreement. And so remember the way in which it was reported out, the way that it was initially reported out, that they had certain schools that they said no, that they did not meet it, but when they ran it, they found out that that was not true, and that the majority of our schools met the requirement. There was an issue at the high school, if I remember correctly, which was what held us back from being able to go to come off of the agreement. And so this next round, and they were making it clear that, that we focused on that this was a partnership agreement, which was not something that, would wipe us out or anything like that. But now I think the stakes are going higher. And that's why I asked, for this meeting tonight, because we have to be careful and we have to be mindful, because the previous administration, when they act, they had actually been harbored to set a standard or to set a benchmark. And the previous administration had said that we were at 15% all the way across, which would have knocked us completely out of the box. And so they said they were concerned about why they didn't want to say anything, but we did. We spoke up and said, absolutely not.
Exactly.
And that's why, and so the partnership agreement specifically said at that particular time that you can make 1%. That was the low. That was what they required. That's why we were able to do what we were able to do. Okay. And so they had to rewrite that, because the question was, look, if you want to do something internally,
Right.
that's fine. But whatever they're saying, the minimum is then we know we have to do that. So I think that kind of was all.
Okay, so I have the answer to trustee Gavin's question. If you all turn to MCL 388.1622P in your binder,
MCL.
the first MCL tab.
Yes.
Okay, item C and D and I. For a public school academy assigned as a partnership district as described in this subsection, a requirement that if reconstitution is imposed on a school that is operated by the public school academy and that is subject to the partnership agreement, the school must be reconstituted as described in section 507, 528, or 561 as applicable of the revised school code MCL 380.507, 385.28, and 385.61. For a district assigned as a partnership agreement, I'm now on D. For a district assigned as a partnership agreement as described in this subsection, a provision that if reconstitution is imposed on a school that is operated by the district and that is subject to partnership district agreement, reconstitution may require closure of the school building, but if the school building remains open, reconstitution must include, but is not limited to, all of the following. The district shall make significant changes to the instructional and non-instructional programming of a school based on the needs identified through a comprehensive review of data in compliance with section 21H. Double I, the district shall review whether the current principal of the school should remain as the principal or be replaced. Item three, triple I or three, the reconstitution plan for the school must require the adoption of goals similar to the measurable benchmarks included in the partnership agreement with a limit of 3 years to achieve the goals. If the goals are not achieved within 3 years, the superintendent of public instruction shall impose a second reconstitution plan. And then two, if a district or public school academy is assigned as a partnership district as described in subsection 1 during the current fiscal year, it shall ensure that it has a signed partnership district agreement as described in subsection 1 in place, but not later than 90 days after the date that it is assigned as a partnership district, which is what we're doing. So I think I've kind of gone over the reconstitution piece.
So just for clarity, that means that this is very high stakes.
Yeah.
That we can be closed, and that it is important for us to be clear on the goals that we set. We can set high internal goals, but to give the state the power to close us with these high external goals will set us up for failure. Our students, our principals, our community. And we've seen what that looks like.
All right, so I want to kind of get into the document, because I know there's going to be a lot of discussion once we get to page 11. So of course, first page, Benton Harbor Area Schools Partnership Agreement Template Cohort 5, 2025 Identification Cycle. This partnership agreement is entered on April 23rd, 2026 among the signatory partner entities, including Benton Harbor Area Schools, Beering and Risa, and the Michigan Department of Education. According to MCL 388-1622, which is what I just read from, assignment of a district to a 3-year partnership agreement is made by the State Superintendent of Public Instruction. The above named signatory partner entities agree that upon the commencement date of this partnership agreement, that they shall collaboratively work to achieve the mutually agreed upon goals, including interim target benchmarks and align in target outcomes for the local education agency, LEA, both traditional public school districts and the public school academies, PSA, and schools named in this document. The purpose of the agreement is to impose student achievement at Benton Harbor Area Schools. To improve student achievement at Benton Harbor Area Schools. The purposes, terms, and conditions of this agreement are as follows. Component of this agreement. The signatory partner entities will collectively assess the needs defined below in section IA 1 through 5 and develop a plan of support and interventions. Through increased collaboration and positive relationships, the signatory partners will implement Benton Harbor Area Schools agreement with fidelity, resulting in improved academic achievement for all students. Within 90 school days of assignment as a partnership agreement, signatory partner entities agree to collaboratively complete a partnership agreement that A, utilizes the Michigan Integrated Continuous Improvement Process, MICIP, to complete a comprehensive needs assessment in collaboration with the intermediate district, community members, educational organizations, and post-secondary institutions as applicable in MCL 388-162, 1621H. The goals within the partnership agreement are generated from 3 state and 2 federal required areas of inquiry. Those MCLs are noted there. The process to generate goals is completed within the MyKIP process. The comprehensive needs assessment or evaluation must include all of the following. State requirements. 1, a review of the district's implementation and utilization of a multi-tier system of supports, MTSS, to ensure that it is used to appropriately inform instruction. 2, a review of the district and school building leadership and educator capacity to substantially improve student outcomes. 3, a review of classroom, instructional, and operational practices and curriculum to ensure alignment with research-based instructional practices and state curriculum standards. Federal requirements. 1, a review of all components in the Michigan School Index for all schools identified for comprehensive supports and improvement. 2, a review of resource inequities, which includes a review of district and school level budgeting via the resource allocation review process. The MyKIP platform will be used annually for partnership districts to outline strategies and activities for each goal, including funding and communication. The identified strategies for achieving the goal should address the whole child's needs. A school level report will be generated via MyKIP to meet federal requirements. B, includes a continuous improvement plan as part of the partnership agreement that has been approved by the state superintendent or his or her designee, addressing the needs identified in the comprehensive needs assessment. MyKIP will house the continuous improvement plan. Additionally, the continuous improvement plan must: 1, identify how the district's MTSS is used to inform instruction appropriately. 2, identify how the district's talent and staff management system, including specific details regarding district and building leadership and educator capacity, will substantially improve student outcomes. And 3, identify how the district's instructional curriculum and operational practices align with research-based instructional practices and state standards. C, includes aligned, measurable 18-month interim target benchmarks and 36-month end target outcomes that will be achieved for each school operated by the district, that is included in the partnership agreement and subject to approval by the director of the OPD. And D, includes at least one accountability measure. At least one accountability measure. 1, for a traditional district assigned as a partnership district, accountability measures under this subdivision must include the reconstitution of the school. 2, for a PSA assigned as a partnership district, accountability measures under the subdivision may include the reconstitution of the school. One or more accountability measures must be imposed no later than the following school year if the district does not achieve the measurable academic outcomes for each school operated by the district that is subject to the partnership agreement. E, includes specific actions that will be taken by the district and each of its signatory partner entities to improve student achievement as measured by the Michigan School Index. Secretary Triplett, can you assist with reading 2, process for completing the partnership agreement?
Yes. Process for completing the partnership agreement. Assessing needs. Engaging in a process that assesses the district's need, reveals a picture of its achievements and challenges, and identifies the factors critical to its success. This includes examining several data sources, including academic, non-academic, and district/building systems, as well as various data types: achievement, demographic, perception, and process, to identify the gap between the current and desired state. The district will assess needs via an interactive process on a regular basis throughout the continuous improvement cycle. The district will first look at district-wide data in the areas of inquiry, and then look at the same school-level data for the school or schools identified for CSI. The district and school will then engage in root cause analysis around the areas of inquiry to discern the primary contributing factors, identify challenges or opportunities for growth, and identify assets that can be leveraged to address those opportunities. B, plan, implement, and monitor. Goals provide a sense of direction, motivation, and clear focus for improvement, and are a result of the needs assessment defined in section 2.A. Based on identified need, the partnership district will define a goal area or areas with specific measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound SMART benchmark and outcomes. See Appendix B. Example, benchmarks and outcome table. The district and school will outline goals, strategies, and activities that, when implemented with fidelity, will help the district reach its goals. The district will identify and include 18-month interim target benchmark and 36-month in target outcomes aligned to the previously identified goal. This will be completed in the table found in section
17.
is at 17.
Mhm.
Requirements for benchmark and outcome include the following: MCL 388.1622P, MCL section 388.16218. State assessments for at least 18-month interim target benchmark and aligned 36-month end target outcome that put pupils on track to meet or exceed grade level proficiency. The increase shall be based upon the current value and an increase that would likely result in a Michigan School Index score above the bottom 5%. Minimally, a 3 percentage point increase in proficiency from the baseline. State assessments or local benchmark assessment for at least 18-month interim target benchmark and aligned 36-month end target outcome measuring growth. At least 18-month interim target benchmark and an aligned 36-month end target outcome that addresses literacy. At least 18-month interim target benchmark and an aligned 36-month end target outcome that addresses mathematics. At least 18-month interim target benchmark and aligned 36-month end target outcome that addresses attendance rates. At least 18-month interim target benchmark and aligned 36-month end target outcome that addresses graduation rate, if applicable. At least 18-month interim target benchmark and aligned 36-month end target outcome that utilizes process data. While goals, 18-month interim target benchmark and 36-month end target outcomes do not change, a partnership district will monitor and may need to adjust strategies, activities, funding, and communication.
Okay, would anyone like to volunteer for 3? Yes, ma'am. The quicker we read, the quicker we get through it. You want to take 3, right, Kelly? You want me to do it? Okay, I'll do 3. 3, review of benchmarks and outcomes. Evaluating the attainment of interim target benchmark and end target outcome measures occurs twice during the life of the partnership agreement. Each evaluation follows established business rules and includes reviewing the partnership district's capacity, fidelity, the extent of reaching the targeted population of state or stage of implementation, scale, reach, and the impact of identified goals. A, interim target benchmark review. BR, attainment of the interim target benchmarks is reviewed at the 18-month mark of the partnership agreement. B, end target outcome review. The attainment of the end target outcomes is reviewed at the 36-month mark of the partnership agreement. This is to determine the application of accountability measures defined in section 15 of the agreement should a school within the partnership agreement be re-identified for CSI. 4, terms and conditions. Benton Harbor Area Schools retains control of the schools named in the agreement. The Michigan Department of Education and the partners named in the agreement will provide mutually agreed upon support to meet the benchmarks and outcomes. 5, signatory partners. The Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education President, Benton Harbor Area School Superintendent, and the Berrien Reese Superintendent, and the Director of the Office of Partnership Districts are the signatory partners and serve as the primary decision makers for this agreement. 6, requirements of partnership districts. Provide permission for the appropriate benchmark assessment vendor, i.e. NWA. You guys see that I don't, NWEA I'll keep going. To transfer student level benchmark assessment data from the fall and spring of each year to the Michigan Data Hub. Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act shall be followed as required by law. B, complete surveys as requested by MDE. Period of the agreement, the partnership agreement shall commence on the date it is signed by all signatory partners. The partnership agreement is completed after the academic outcome evaluation or partnership agreement summary report has been finalized. See Appendix A, Partnership Agreement Development Timeline, and Appendix C, Public School Academies. Yes.
Okay, so it says here, as you said, this is to be completed after this academic outcome evaluation and the summary report has been finalized. Is it possible to pause here and to review these reports? Because if we just read through without, looking at the things that apply to us, I'm not gonna remember to go back. Like, can we get some analysis from the superintendent about the summary report?
Oh,
And the
okay, so
timeline?
do you have the academic outcome evaluation?
This,
You look on page 18, gives you gives you the 18-month benchmarks, and then it gives you the 36-month benchmarks. So it tells you exactly what school, what they have to have done by the 18-month benchmark, and then what it has to look like, and they get the year span, 25 for MLK. For ELA MSTEP, they have to have at least 13 points from 2025.
It actually starts on page 11. Are you saying you don't want to read through this document?
I'm saying I don't want to read through.
I think that's what
I am
Raquel is saying. You're saying you want the document noted in here. I know that's what you're saying.
Yeah, I want the details that are gonna impact us. The summary, what it is we're promising that we're going to do. Like, I'd like to get clarity on that. And if we're on the spot where there's some evaluation tools that need to be turned in to the state, I'd like to know where we are with those tools.
those things,
Okay, so let me just pause for a second. I'll allow Dr. Griffin to kind of see if she has the documents that you're referencing. The reason that I'm reading through this is because the last 3-year cycle, we worked on this collaboratively. At different points, different members of the Board of Education were in the meetings, were digging in and kind of reviewing this multiple times. We're in a position now where we're used to it, but I just would feel comfortable knowing everyone has put their eyes on every aspect of it. So I'm not trying to be tedious. And if you guys want to say that you've read through the document and you prefer to not go through these pages, that's perfectly fine with me. I just don't want anyone to say that they didn't notice something in the document. But Dr. Griffin, do you have what Trustee Gavin has asked about?
The only other tool that led to the completion of this document is in the document with you. It's a blue document, the ETM report. That has been shared.
So-
No other tools were given to them. That was just a tool given to us, so we would be clear about where we landed, whether we met or not met in the previous 3 years in order to set goals for this next 3-year term.
So the commencement is the day she signs. This, what is mentioning here, the partnership agreement is completed after they do the academic outcome evaluation and the partnership agreement summary report. So that's saying that this particular partnership agreement that we're in now will be finalized once they go through and do the conference similar to how they did in like our 18-month benchmark and our 36 benchmark. So I'm not sure if you're saying you want to see the data from the previous partnership agreement, but this one that we're signing, the agreement is completed, is referencing the end of this particular agreement and not the former. So it's saying it'll be final once they go through and review everything in our progress. That's the completion of the partnership agreement. So it commences on the date it's signed by all signatory partners. Yeah, that's when it starts. It commences when we all sign. It's completed after they do the AOE and then the partnership agreement summary report. So that means they'll assess and evaluate our status at the end of the 3-year term.
So what I'm wondering here is if you're talking about this blue document, it speaks to where we were, our proficiency in each grade level area, right?
Dr. Griffin, you're shaking your head. You can respond to what she's indicating.
Yes, you'll notice at the top of page 2, in the blue section, it says ELA proficiency, that's grade level. And then, so that tells you what assessment component is being outlined below. But page 3 is growth. So that's another component of measure. And they provided us with the data for where we fell that led from last year, the academic year. If you look in the top left, it says report identifiers. Academic year was last year and it was very recent, and this was our district overall. So this is where we landed. That, for example, I'll start on page 2,
Mhm.
ELA proficiency, and then it has the 4 schools and the support category reasons. So it tells you that. And then it says in the ELA proficient percentage column, that's the school's current value. That's where the proficient levels fell for those particular schools going down. And then the ELA proficient percent. And then below that, it says the approximate minimum ETM to exceed the bottom 5th percent. So we landed at 4, but we needed to hit 20 or higher to get to exceed the bottom 5th percentile.
So for clarity purposes, thank you, Dr. Griffin. We landed at 4.59%.
Correct.
In order to exceed the bottom 5, we have to be at 20%, which is a 16% deficit difference there,
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
somewhere in there. And our requirement for the state was it 1%?
So it was overall for the 36 month, it was 1% each year, which was the 3%.
So 3%.
Right.
So we exceeded that.
All
That particular requirement, because there's a certain section that we read. If you go back to page 4, in that second paragraph, that first bullet point or the sub bullet point, it says the increase shall be based upon the current value and an increase that would likely result in the Michigan School Index score above the bottom 5%, minimally a 3 percentage point increase in proficiency from the baseline. So last year we did the minimum 3% point increase in proficiency. So we attempted to meet that minimum 3% that was required over the 36 months. We didn't necessarily put down the goals that would have potentially gotten us out of the bottom 5.
So there's 2 things happening here. It looks like there's language. And that's what they say. They say you had the power to set your percentage,
Mhm.
right?
right.
If we would have set it at 15, we would have failed this.
Yes.
Right? And so it's important for us to look at this data and not do that, right? Because there's also, we just read through the consequences of us setting a goal, us not meeting the goal, and that reconstitution plan. And so the partnership agreement gives them this contract to be able to do some things that we otherwise, it makes us vulnerable. And I get that we want to read through everything. I don't want us to, I just want us to just be real clear here that I want to know, what did it take for us? Like, what is the promise that we made, or what is the proposal to them? Is it 1%? Are we trying to move it up to that? And how can we make sure that we don't do that? If we have a right to not do that, I would love for us to get clear on that before people, end up just going home.
I think that it's important for us to read through this. That was the purpose of the meeting, because what it does, it gives us an overview of what this partnership agreement is about. We can't take the chance and say, hey, y'all got it and y'all didn't read it. Yeah, we have to come to the bottom line. And as Treasurer Gavin was stating, The bottom line is simply this. If I'm not correct, last year, the superintendent was given a directive basically to present to us what they were going to present to the state.
Mhm.
That never happened. I went to the meeting at Barron Risa. The meeting was not held in our community. It was held at Barron Risa. None of us had ever seen what they presented. So when you look at this data, it's my understanding right now that they are working on what's going to be presented, what's going to be, what we're projecting that we will be able to do. Well, like you said, if the state says 3%, then it doesn't make any sense. We don't have data to even support within the last 10 to 15 years, any of our schools making 15, 25%, 30% growth within a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. We haven't. So that would be negligent for us to set that as a target for our school district. However, within the individual school and what we do internally, but this is for the partnership agreement. If if the superintendent and the team want to say, okay, at Benton Harbor High School, we're gonna shoot for 25%, 5-year growth the first year, 10-year growth the next year, and then 10 years like that, and then by the third year, we're already there because we will be out of it. But we have to set, we cannot overstate. We cannot do that because if that happens, we are in trouble and they will come for our district. But I do think that it's important that we go through because if you read through the sections, it's telling us exactly what it is. Like when you see section 17, where it says the state assessment or local benchmark assessment for at least one 18-month interim target benchmark and a line 36 end of target outcome measuring growth in literacy. Then it goes down to says mathematics. So it tells us the areas, I guess these are the areas and attendance and the graduation rate.
Mhm.
I guess my question is, what are we promising? Can you tell me what page our promise to them is?
So we start on page 8, assurance of action. There's accountability measures that begin on 7, and then the assurance of actions begin on 8.
And
And the reason I was encouraging us to read through this, because I'm pretty sure that this language, as it relates to the bottom 5%, minimally the 3 percentage point, was in the last one. So, I mean, if it's of you all's preference to skip to page 8.
no, I think we should continue.
I don't want to, I want us to read the whole thing. I
Okay,
just want, like where it's saying, turn this thing in.
Yeah.
I want to be clear on what we got versus what we're promising we're gonna get. As we're
Okay.
reading this, so that we know, we're reading about what can happen to us, but we already know what we're promising, if that makes sense. So if we promising 20% or 30% or whatever, I'd like to know that while we're reading through.
okay.
If that makes sense.
So I'll proceed with amendments. I think I'm on, we had just read period of agreement, so partnership district assignment on page 5. The district is released from its partnership district assignment only when it has no schools identified for CSI, excluding MDE defined alternative and virtual schools. Amendments, this partnership agreement shall not be modified, altered, or amended except by a written agreement duly executed.
Clarity, I'm sorry, can we get clarity on what that means? So are they saying that the district is released from its partnership assignment only when it has no schools identified? When it says excluding alternative and virtual schools, does that mean that those schools cannot be released or that they're not a part of it? Like, why do they exclude alternative and virtual schools?
I don't know that answer.
What this is saying, what that's saying, Treasurer Gavin, is once we sign this, once our president signs this, it cannot be modified. You can't go back in and change anything. You can't do it. Yeah, so once this is signed, you can't go back and say, okay, we said 5, but now we want to go down to 3. You can't change anything. So that's why you have to look at what it is that they're saying, the minimum requirement from the partnership, from the Michigan Department of Education. And make sure that we're within that parameter. Just because they said 1% did not mean that that those schools did not have to work to be above that. So it's the thing was, we was not going to allow our previous superintendent to say that our schools would make 15% growth. That's what I want. That's my reason for tonight.
I understand, I had to process what you're asking me, trustee Gavin, so when it says, only when it has no schools identified for CSI, CSI is the support, the comprehensive supports and improvement, but you're asking specifically regarding excluding indeed defined alternative and virtual schools, and so you're asking, being that Cape is an alternative school, would it be, only when it has no schools identified for
Does it mean like
CSI?
we would, if all of our other schools are good, but Cape isn't, we still would be released because Cape is considered alternative, like it's understood that that environment needs additional assistance.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure what the exclusion is. If the exclusion means that alternative and virtual schools would remain, or if alternative and virtual schools are not subject to it.
Let me ask you this, do the Cape students have to come to the high school to this? No.
Dr. Griffin, you can speak. up
No,
on-
they don't, they go to Cape to test.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna proceed. Successors and assignees, the covenants, conditions, and agreements in this partnership agreement shall be binding upon and inure to the benefit of each party, their respective legal representatives, successors and assignees. No identification, there should be no identification of any party by any other in regard to liabilities arising out of the functions covered by this agreement. All parties shall be responsible for their liabilities and defense as determined by law. Notices, any notice to be given in connection with any of the terms or provisions of this agreement shall be in writing and be given in person, by fax transmission, courier delivery service, or by mail or electronic delivery with receipt notification, and shall become effective on delivery if given in person on the date of delivery, if sent by unsecured email, fax transmission, or other similar unsecured electronic methods, or by courier delivery service, or C, 4 business days after being deposited in the mail with proper postage for the first class registered certified mail prepaid. Until notified in writing by the appropriate party of a change to a different address, notices shall be addressed as follows. So it has presented the addresses of ourselves, Barry, Risa, and the Michigan Department of Ed. Additional partners, the following entities have been identified and have agreed to serve as additional partners in pursuit of achieving the purposes of this agreement. So we have no additional partners listed currently.
Madam President,
Yes, sir.
when you're talking about indemnification, what they're saying is we can't sue them. We cannot go back and sue them. No, it's a contractual agreement where one party compensates another for specified damages, losses, or liabilities. It functions as risk shifting, often used to insurance or business contract to cover legal fees, settlements, and third-party claims, protecting the party from financial harm. So they were, like say for instance, something, we can't go and sue the state. And they can't sue us, or you know what I mean? It just that, I remember that particular section being, there shall be no of any party by any other in regards to liabilities arising. Okay, so that's important that we know that as well.
Okay, so then section, what is this, 14 answers Gavin's question. A, schools identified for CSI listed below must identify aligned 18-month interim target benchmarks and 36-month end target outcomes, in section 17 goals, interim target benchmarks and end target outcomes. So that's Martin Luther King Jr., Fair Plain Middle School, and Ben Harbor High School. B, schools identified for additional targeted support or targeted support and improvement or comprehensive support and improvement that do not meet criteria for entering a partnership agreement listed below are included in the supports provided by OPD. These schools are not subject to the benchmarks, outcomes, or accountability measures defined in this agreement. OPD supports include guidance in completing ESSA required plans via MyChip. So that kind of clarifies the alternative of virtual school is going to provide the supports. They're going to get the supports, but it's not, these schools are not subject to benchmarks, outcomes, or accountability measures defined in the agreement. So our CAPE program is excluded from the expectations, but will still have supports and make efforts to improve. School accountability measures, we kind of read through that already earlier. For each school listed that is re-identified for the CSI and achieves 1/3, 33.33% or less of the local and state assessment and academic 36-month end target outcome measures as defined in section 17 Benton Harbor Area Schools, Barron Recent, and MDE will impose one of the mutually agreed upon measures. Recommend at least 2 accountability measures. A, reconstitute as defined in the noted MCLs. B, adopt new instructional and curricular program based on a comprehensive review of current data. C, provide additional personnel supports and/or make changes to staffing placements based on these assessments. D, develop a year-round comprehensive job-embedded professional development plan, including mentoring, coaching, and modeling. E, develop or update a 3 to 5 year strategic plan with the school board to streamline district focus. F, conduct a comprehensive needs assessment review of the data to guide significant changes in instructional and non-instructional programming. Provide additional staffing to support students needing interventions. If applicable, at the end of this agreement, the school accountability measures are to be imposed no later than the 2029-2030 school year. The implementation of the selected accountability measures will be incorporated in the subsequent partnership agreement via benchmarks and outcomes or assurances.
Dr. Robinson?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it says that Ben Harbor Schools, RESA and MDE, which is the state, will impose one of the mutually agreed upon measures.
Mm-hmm.
Recommend at least 2. So only one. I guess what I'm not clear on, if it's A, B, C, D, E, F, so it's 5, maybe 6 of them.
Mm-hmm.
How do who decides which 1 or 2?
Has to be mutually agreed upon by all of the parties at that time. That's how I read it. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to reconstitute. It could be one of these alternatives.
But the bottom line is, these right here, when we're at assurance of action,
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Griffith, so you all have been working. You all have been working on this right here. So when you say assurance of action on page 8, are you on page 8 with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so the Benton Harbor Area School Board of Education actions to be taken, the Benton Harbor Area School Superintendent actions to be taken, Van Risa actions to be taken, and Michigan Department of Education actions to be taken. So this is a part of the partnership agreement, correct?
Correct.
That you all said these things, so the Board of Education would, A, support the superintendent, ensure that the community is engaged, review progress on the partnership agreement at regular Board of Education meeting. Because remember, the last time too, Madam President, we were not clear on the number, remember those number of meetings that we were supposed to have.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things that really went against us because the board did not have those meetings because we had people who did not show up and all of us had to be present. And so with those kind of things where, you know, some people didn't want to do this and it really threw us off. Yeah.
They do give us credit.
Yeah, but after the fact.
We had to go back and do it again.
Yes, but it's still penalized stuff. So it's clear, so this, when you talk about assurance of action, now we're finna get ready into this current,
This goes into what we're actually agreeing
what we're
into.
doing with
Mhm.
right now.
And this piece right here, the 11 starts the index and the improvements but 8 starts, the commitment is so. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. Who all worked on this?
Dr. Griffin.
The principals and cabinet members and myself. Okay. Principals were at the table pretty much every step of the way.
And then you all had meetings with Barry Reese and MDE, correct? You were
Yes, we
just
did.
naming the district reps.
Yes, yes, we did. Barry and Risa came out and the state came out as well.
So at every one of these partnership agreement meetings, the representative from the state of Michigan, the Michigan Department of Education, someone, they were there. Barry Risa, superintendent and his representative. Ben Harbor Area School Superintendent, Central Administration where applicable.
Mhm.
Principals who are going to be doing this work in their building have been actively engaged.
Yes, sir.
This is also, from my understanding, it is a living document. They can change their strategies and whatever it is that they want to do along the way. If they see something is not working,
Yes.
if they see that something is working, so it is a living document. Is that not correct, Dr.?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, all right.
Do we have documentation of those principals and everybody? Did you guys have meetings? Do we have meeting minutes and things like that that we can go back to?
Yes, we do. We have 2 different measures available. The state representative Kimberly Davis has attendance summaries that I can forward to you. And I also have, I believe, some summary AI documents that can be forwarded to you to let you know who was at each and every meeting that we held with them.
Okay, thank you.
President Robinson or
Yes.
Dr. Griffin, who made the decisions about what the school board is supposed to do?
So looking at these are the same agreements that we had last year. The only thing that I've noticed is different is that the training, it looks like it's 2 more trainings than what we had before. Or no, it looks like it might be the same. Yeah, it's the exact same.
Guess I'm asking, who made the decisions on behalf of the school board?
We do.
Yeah. Well, we just not seeing it. So how could we have made the decisions?
You saw this.
So what she's saying is she used the same, they used the same agreements that we had last year. They just moved it forward.
Those didn't work for us.
Right, so that's why we're here
They did
now.
work for us.
We ultimately met it. Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't just flatline, you know.
No, what I mean is we did it, but there was some inflexibility that did not give us credit for our efforts, right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, you had like, and it was kind of like, I think it was kind of like in between elections or I
Yeah.
know you were on the board when we had like maybe 5 of us would show up.
Mhm.
And it was basically the Board of Education that really put this bam, because we only had 2 things that we needed to do.
Right.
And we did not meet that as a board.
It was putting requirements on the board that the community doesn't put on us, and nor do they put on the state representatives or anybody else.
But we accepted it and we
Yeah.
signed it. The board before, maybe the board before you
No, I
were
was-
on the board, or if you were on this board, then when the president given the authority to sign it, that's what we were supposed to do.
And we were at a place where we didn't think it wouldn't be difficult to make those meetings. We just transitioned into a period where it didn't work for certain trustees.
Yeah.
Okay, so assurance of actions. The Benton Harbor Area Schools Board of Education actions to be taken. 1, support the superintendent. 2, ensure that the school and district community is meaningfully engaged in the implementation of the partnership agreement. 3, review progress on the partnership agreement and regular Board of Education meetings, including but not limited to financial reports, aggregated student data, challenges, barriers, and/or celebrations. 4, as defined by the state superintendent, require local school board training, potentially by the Michigan Association of School Boards or a similar organization. Dr. Griffin, can you read B?
State superintendent power over our boards.
It's not the state superintendent.
Yes, it says here, as determined by the state superintendent, require local school board training, potentially by the MASB or a similar organization.
Because the state
These are-
superintendent is over these partnership agreements. They are over them. It's a non-negotiable. We were identified to be a school. Our school district was identified. The state superintendent, they run that.
No, we run this.
They
And
run,
I think it's
they
important.
run the partnership agreement. I'm not talking about we know who run at the local.
If
But
we
they run the
sign
partnership agreement.
this, I just want to be clear.
Yeah, they got.
I have respect for the state superintendent and MDE and all of the above. And there's a reason for partnership agreements. There's a reason for emergency manager laws. Okay, and so there's too much leeway in here. I believe that we should have trainings, but when you have as determined by the state superintendent, that takes away our power to determine our.
She didn't determine.
So I do want to refresh you all's memory. When we did our trainings last time, I couldn't just say we're doing this without going through Gloria to ensure that it was something that would be countable as a training. That was something that we did before. So I would tell her, we want to do a financial piece. We want to do this. We want to do this one, which is a virtual training for 1 hour, but it's something that I really think we need. And she would go through it. I would give her the MASB definition or description of the training, and she would say, yep, that will work for one of your governance trainings. So we did that before.
And it also says for a similar organization, so it's not just saying that we have to go with MAS. We pick what we want to do to get the training, but they will say, you guys might take this training, but this right here won't go towards what this partnership agreement calls for us. So Gloria is the representative from the Michigan.
She was before. I think it's what's the person's name now? It was Chapman before.
Kimberly Davis.
I just
There's
want to be
Yvonne Dixon.
clear that the last time when we did this, and I didn't agree with us signing that because there were some pieces that were missing in terms of on the state's behalf. But when that was signed, that gave them the power to say whether or not we took enough training. And we had school board members who was genuinely sick, genuinely not available, who we could not force to be present. And they would not bend on that. And that put us at a hardship. And so, like, when we say we agree to the thing and they're inflexible about it, what they will then say is you agreed to it. And so all I'm saying is I'm for us taking trainings, but I think that the language has to be flexible enough that there is a loophole for us in case there are some challenges. And right now, this says as determined by the state superintendent. So right now, it gives all of our power to the state superintendent. And I'm wondering.
I think you're misreading that.
And then also the support the superintendent. I think there needs to be, no, I'm reading it well.
No, you're
And then
not.
it says support the superintendent. I think there needs to be a qualifier there, right? Support the superintendent when in alignment with our strategic goals or, something like that. You gotta be like, we have to pay attention to every word.
But in the partnership, when you read those words, you can't break them and splice them down. It says as determined by the state superintendent, but everybody in the partnership agreement, the local school board must have training. They can use the MASB or they can use another, but as determined, when they put this partnership agreement together, it is stating, that's what this means. It's just saying that he's telling us to do it. He's saying as determined by the state superintendent in this partnership agreement, that all of these local boards of education must be trained.
Well, then
They
if
must
that's
have
the case,
training.
then why is it a partnership agreement? If we don't have a say over the flexibility of the language, that's not a partnership agreement, that's a mandate. And so we gotta be clear on whether or not we're mandated to do X, Y, Z. What language are we mandated to do? And what language are we choosing to do?
But we don't have
Because
an
at the
we don't
end
have
of
an
it-
option not to be in to do it. We don't have an option because we are a partnership agreement school. We don't have an option to say Finn Harvey area schools is not doing it.
We didn't have the like I couldn't just decide and of course I would never do this, but I couldn't just pull any random training from the air and say the Board of Education is gonna utilize this training. Like, I had to run it up the chain to MDE, who is ultimately supervised by the state superintendent. That's how I read that. I didn't receive it as a threat because I've already been through that process. And because we are knowledgeable of what type of supports and trainings would be beneficial to us as a board, there was never a training that we selected and wanted to do that was declined. We chose meaningful trainings. I was intentional in giving the descriptions, providing the information that they needed so they can see that it was trainings that would be in alignment with what we needed with the board. And because the MASB is a standard in giving you what you need, that's just there as an option. But I guess, Dr. Griffin, can you go back to your liaison and ask if as determined by the state superintendent
Sure.
can be,
But Madam
provide us
President,
with clarity on that
can't we have, when is the deadline for you, for this? to be done?
Thursday?
This Thursday.
Mhm.
So is there,
Okay.
I can certainly reach out to them.
Or even if it's a virtual meeting or something to that extent.
Tonight, it's fine. I could certainly try to get it.
So far what I've heard, these are clarifying questions I want you to ask Dr. Griffin. And I know that we had a presentation and she provided the clarification before, but I just want us to they provided it before as it relates to section 15, school accountability measures. It says that it's imposed one of the mutually agreed upon measures, recommend at least two. We want to just be certain that reconstitution would never be a requirement, that it would be something mutually agreed upon between the parties. And the way that I read it is that these, 5 or 6 options here could be the one or the two, recommend two that we could choose. We just want to make sure that the reconstitution is not anything that's mandated. It doesn't know as such, but I know that that's important to us. And then we want to clarify the as determined by the state superintendent. Can we take that out?
Yes.
Okay, can you read item B for us?
Benton Harbor Area Schools Superintendent actions to be taken. Number one, provide regular updates to the Board of Education regarding the status of the district as it relates to the implementation of this partnership agreement. Number two, ensure that the school/district and community is meaningfully engaged in the implementation of this agreement. Number three, schedule meetings with the partnership agreement liaison and partners to discuss progress on the partnership agreement implementation. Number four, collaborate with the partnership agreement liaison on the development and implementation of the partnership agreement. Number five, accountability measures and implementation. Benton Harbor High School, the district shall review the instructional and non-instructional staff organizational flow chart and reassign staff based on the needs identified through a comprehensive review of data. Partners will review and address potential factors that may be adversely affecting the implementation of the plan and determine a pathway that is in the best interest of all students, which may include but not limited to increased ISD support, increased instructional support, internal review of strategic plan to ensure alignment with priority goals, update a 3 to 5 year strategic plan with school board, which includes an assessment of all aspects of our district's operations, including curriculum instruction, assessment, student services, and support services. C,
so now, Madam President, are we going into, this is what
We're
we
gonna
are
do-
saying that we're doing, that we're going to continue to do?
Correct.
And if there's anything that we want to add to this, is this the time to do it or take out?
Is it something that you,
No, I'm just saying. I'm
yeah, this is
asking.
this is a draft. This is the current draft, so if there's anything that we, have concerns about or think we want to add, this would be the time.
So for Benton Harbor High School, the district shall review the instructional and non-instructional staff organizational flow chart, reassign staff based on needs. So these are the things that should happen at Benton Harbor High School that they're saying that we're going to do in this partnership agreement. And all of these things that are in this partnership agreement for Benton Harbor High School for for our schools and different things, they must be measurable. Is that not correct?
Dr. Griffin?
Yes, sir.
Is that correct? So the things that you're listing, that they're listing in here, they have to be measured. So only one school, I'm looking here and it says Ben Harbor High School. Where are the other schools?
We agreed when we were meeting, Principal Sanders said he was fine with it because this is what was in the previous agreement. We kept everything the same, and I got his approval. He's like, I've already met with my team and we're fine with this.
No, I'm saying, but where are the other schools? We're gonna find this down here later.
We didn't write any more for the other schools, but I certainly can if you would like, sir.
I think if you kind of look at the data as far as the benchmarks of what schools met and how short, I think Ben Harbor area schools is the one that needed the most supports.
Ben Harbor High School.
Yeah, Ben Harbor High School, I'm sorry.
But I'm saying, if this is a partnership agreement, how we can have a partnership agreement? And MLK is a part of this partnership agreement with a new principal and what have you, why don't we have that information in here? Fair Plain is a part of this partnership agreement with a new principal. Why don't we have their information? in
Okay,
here?
Dr. Griffin, can you get clarification on
We-
5?
We chose not to add anything, and it's understood that the spirit of the document, we would make sure all of these particular resources were also available for the other schools. When the principals were at the table, this, I shared with them, this is what we inherited in the previous agreement. And they said, even we don't list them here, we're gonna make sure that we get all these same things available for the other schools. They were in agreement with that. I let the principals make a lot of the decisions that were put in this document. We certainly, if that is your, if that is the pleasure of what you would like to move forward, we certainly can go back and add it. But they were well aware that we would just leave it like this from the previous 3-year agreement.
I just don't see how it can be a partnership including all of these schools, and only one school is listed in this particular, it doesn't matter what school it is, but yeah, I just don't see what did Fred have to contribute to this? What did, based on the data from the previous point, what did Trevin see? What did their team see for Fair Play? So that's kind of like alarming to me that they're not that all of our schools that's in this partnership agreement are not in here.
Will our lawyers look at these agreements, or is that not something we do with this?
They're working on it.
What was the question, trustee Doyle?
Will our lawyers take a look at this? Is that not what we do?
I wouldn't be against them looking at it. I can't remember if we had council review it last year or not. Last time, it's been so long. And I don't want anybody to think that I'm texting or anything. I was trying to pull up the last document, the last final partnership agreement. Okay, so Dr. Griffin, can you just ask them about that piece?
Sure.
Okay, C, Berrien RESA actions to be taken, implement Berrien RESA Regional Assistance Grant Service Plan in conjunction with the partnership agreement, actively support Ben Harbor area schools. MDE actions to be taken, assign a partnership agreement liaison. PAL, who will serve as the primary point of contact for Ben Harbor area schools, will be meaningfully engaged in the implementation of the partnership agreement. 2, assign a team of individuals from NDE with expertise in comprehensive school and district improvement to ensure that resources are being used as efficiently and effectively as possible to improve student academic achievement and to ensure district financial stability. Okay, so now we're digging into the meat of the percentage increase that everybody wanted to get to. I just wanted to make sure that we read through every bit of this together. 17, goals, interim target benchmarks, and end target outcomes. The partnership agreement will define goal areas resulting from the district's area of inquiry. Each goal area will include aligned measurable academic 18-month interim target benchmarks and 36-month end target outcome MCL section 388-1622P. The benchmarks and outcomes table is designed for districts to add their benchmarks and outcomes. Districts are required to indicate goal alignment with Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan, SEP, if applicable. Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan goals: 1, expand early childhood learning opportunities; 2, improve early literacy achievement; 3, improve the health, safety, and wellness of all learners; 4, expand secondary learning opportunities for all students; 5, increase the percentage of all students who graduated from high school; 6, increase the percentage of adults with post-secondary credential; 7, increase the number of certified teachers in areas of shortage; and 8, provide adequate and equitable school funding. And then we go to the benchmarks and outcomes table. Do you guys want to push forward, or do you want to take a quick recess before we dig into this meat of it? Because this is we can take a recess.
Are these percentages that we came up with, or?
These are the percentages that Dr. Griffin and her team in MDE and Barry Risa, I think it was Barry Risa at the table, came up with to get us out of that 5%, the bottom 5%. Last year, we focused on the minimal 3% over 36 months because I think we were so focused on, we don't want to not meet it. And so what they're recommending is, what the team has decided at this point is trying to get out of the bottom 5%. So we'll take a brief recess at 7:49. You guys can either choose to take a step away, or you can sit here and kind of go through the interim target benchmarks for 18 months and 36 months, outline any areas of concern, and then when we get back, we can kind of talk about that further. And then
We'll get ourselves out of that 5%.
But we can't do that. We never did. that.
okay, we're gonna take a recess and come back and have this conversation. So it's 7:50, we'll come back at 8 o'clock. Okay, so we're returning from recess at approximately 8:14 PM. We apologize for the delay. We were attempting to get a copy of the previous partnership agreement, allow for printing of that and review of that. So we're now returning back to session. I did, in looking at the partnership agreement comparatively to last year's to current, in the assurance of action. Okay, thank you. In the assurance of actions, I noted that in the previous partnership agreement, number 3 and number 4 on page 8 of our current agreement draft are not noted on the previous. So the review progress on a partnership agreement at regular board meetings of Board of Education meetings, I have no objections to that. I think that's something that we should be doing. The, as determined by the state superintendent, requires local school boards training. That wasn't specifically noted in the on the partnership agreement in this section, but it was noted on the back. So I'm still gonna ask that the superintendent remove the as determined by state superintendent piece and ensure that that's fine, whether or not that's something that they're requiring. In the B section of 8, I've noticed the difference of the collaborate with partnership agreement liaison on the development and implementation of the partnership agreement is new. And then the accountability measures and implementation is new. I think Secretary Triplett mentioned to me that there was some clarification he received from you about the Benton Harbor High School piece. Is that supposed to say Benton Harbor area schools? Okay, so then we'll be adjusting page 9, number 5 to Benton Harbor area schools. So thank you, Secretary Triplett, for that clarification. On item C, Barry and Risa in the previous did have the number 1 implement Barry and Risa Regional Assistance Grant Service Plan. But I've noticed that they removed the providing of coaching opportunities for K through 12 and our administrators. We had a 2 and 3 on the previous agreement. And so I'm wondering if you can clarify why that piece has been removed. And I don't have a hard copy of the previous one, Ms. Singer.
This is it right here. Didn't you just give it to you?
She can pass them out, but I don't have it.
We got one right here.
So if you guys look at page 9, of the current agreement comparatively to page 9 and 10 of the old agreement. The old agreement indicated that Berry and Risa would provide coaching opportunities K through 12 in ELA and math. And 3, provide administrative coaching in ELA, math, and SEL practices. My preference would be that those are returned. Okay.
So.
Um,
If we
so
look at this,
go ahead.
if we look at this and what components of this agreement, I'm trying to see where that is in this one.
Which one?
It, at the beginning of this partnership agreement,
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking if we take this partnership agreement and look at what's in the new one
Mm-hmm.
that they're asking us to sign and support,
Mm-hmm.
I don't see components of this agreement. Where's that at? On what page?
It's on the first page of your document
Okay.
and on the first
Right here.
page. Yep, it's the
Okay.
same.
So this is exactly the same.
Yep. Now, I can't say it's word for word, but it's the same.
Huh?
Every word matters when
It
we're
does.
talking about the livelihood of our district.
Yes. So
So
we
I
cannot
think that
have,
there is, there is technology that can do a comparative analysis of these two documents and let us know, what the differences are.
yeah,
I think it's important for us to
very,
have.
yeah,
that.
because that piece with Ben Harbor High School, it just didn't, it didn't match. So when we look at that, when it's a Ben Harbor area school, I think we need to look at it from the components of this agreement.
And then page 4, where we were looking at as far as the going above the 5% index, the minimum 3% point increase, that's the same. That's there on page 4 of the old agreement comparatively to page 4 of the new agreement. That was in there. I think we just focused so much on the 3% that we didn't really process or understand or really focus on at that particular time. We were so focused on meeting the goals and increasing that the possibility of being assessed as needing a new one did not was not a conversation that we essentially had. So then now we're at the benchmarks and outcomes table. I think the point of concern that was raised by Secretary Triplett, Gavin, and Doyle was the amount of the increases
Yes.
for the target goals. And so were you guys,
That's,
are you communicating that you wanted to go back down to the minimum of 1%? Do we just want to do the minimum?
Yes.
yes, and the superintendent and the team, the district can have set those goals as standard. Because when you look over here, if you look at this, if you go over to where it says the mindset approximate minimum ETM report in the back of the new one, and it gave us information where, like, you'll see where Fairplain Middle School is 25 percent. The current value was 25%. And they had a 0 there. That means this indicator was above the bottom 5% work to maintain or increase. So if you would look at this, I think that it is critical that the district look at what it needs to identify internally, which was above and make sure, that it's above the 5%, with the bottom 5%. And then make those choices. But when you see over here, 80% in some of these, like I said, 19%, 13%, 64%, 80%, 44%. Those are extremely, those, I mean, in the state where we are right now. Because once we put this in here, we cannot go back. We cannot go back. So just because you say that if whatever the partnership agreement says, if it's 1% that they're expecting minimum 1% growth, that doesn't mean that because this leadership we're taking in a direction and say, no, I mean, but this is what the partnership agreement, we have to protect ourselves in this partnership agreement. We can't have these 80s and 70s and 64s and different things on here on this partnership agreement. Because even if you look at this data, you go back over here and you look at this data, you got 11%. You only have like one area at Fairplain Middle School, because the yellow areas were areas where it did not, the indicator didn't, we still in the yellow. You know, and so you go over here with Fairplain Middle School, NA, this indicator was above. So Fairplain Middle School did had some areas where they were above the bottom 5%. But all the rest of these things, if you look back here, is yellow. That means that they were not above it. So you don't put yourself in strain like that. Yeah. I'm not doing that, but yes.
President Robinson.
Yes.
Okay, so after hearing this input, I'd like to know what the superintendent feels in terms of the goals that she has here versus what the individual board members are saying about where that would put us.
What's your feedback as far as what we've said?
Oh, I will adhere to what your recommendation is. I'll make the necessary adjustments so that we are clear about what the partnership entails. I'll go back and I'll make those adjustments based upon your recommendation.
So I think essentially what they're wanting is the 36-month end target outcome to be the 3% increase, and then the 18-month, the way that it's worded on this previous document is 1% annually for the 18-month benchmark, and then 3% is the 36-month target benchmark. One thing that I've noticed in comparison of the two is ours in the previous term focused on math and ELA and PBIS. I was a little more simplified. It looks like this time around, they're focusing on more than the state testing, because it's looking at, if you look at page 4, it's looking at addressing literacy, attendance rates, graduation rates. And those weren't a part of our benchmarks last year, but let me look in the document and see in section 2 in the old document, if that's something new.
But this doesn't look,
That's from the being partnership agreement 2. Okay. Yeah, it didn't have, so the old document on page 4, it doesn't notate the literacy and the graduation rates, but I have no objection to that. I do think that those are areas that we should be attempting to improve. So the previous document didn't focus on literacy or graduation rates. So if you look at page 4 of the previous document, it only focused on the 3% increases, the 3% total increase in those areas on the testing. That's section 2. Page 4, which is section 2. If you look at the new document, page 4, which is also section 2, it has the 3% increase in there, but there's also it has to have in-target outcomes that address literacy, in-target outcomes that address attendance rates, target outcomes that address graduation rates. Those are new, as well as the process data is new. All of those are newly added, but it appears that it's requirements, new requirements, because the MCL is noted. So I just want to make sure you guys notate that. So when you look at your chart in the new document, now going back to page 11, you'll see that there's not just the M-STEP percentages, but there's also, for example, item 3 on page 11, during the 2026-27 school year, this is under 18-month benchmark. At least 54% of the full academic year students will meet their, nope, not that one. My focus was I don't see the chronically absent. That's number 5. Increase the percentage of not chronically absent FAY students as defined by the state of Michigan from 44.49 to 60% in the 26-27 school year.
President Robinson?
Yes.
I'm wondering if we're complicating this. I guess what I'm wondering is if we already had an agreement the last time, right? Unless there were some updates to the state law, why would we need to change the agreement unless they were offering us more support, right? Like I can see raising goals as it relates to our superintendent's goals, our district goals, but why did the document need, if we were chugging along, right? And we made some strides, I think Fairplain East may have gotten out of the agreement or something, haven't, no, everybody did, okay.
Everybody.
We were making strides. The only change, what change needs to be made other than we probably shouldn't have had that, all board members have to be present for every single training. That was unrealistic. But outside of that, why couldn't we just, adopt the previous partnership agreement and, ask the state if there's any state law that changed? If no state law changed, why do we need to change our agreement?
So they have the MCL that's notated here. So for example, 388-1622P, which you have in your back tab, the first green tab, it specifically says that there has to be, so on that first page B, at least, I'm sorry, look at, what is that, triple I, improved high school graduation rates as applicable. And then 4 is attendance rates. So 3 is improved high school graduation rates, 4 is attendance rates. So the MCL has updated to request new requirements of the partnership agreement.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like, if there's some updates to the laws, I
Mhm.
can see those changes, right? Whatever the non-negotiables are, we need to be made aware of. These are non-negotiables. This is not this part is not partnership. This is required, right? And if there are non-negotiables, those probably should be in bold or underlined, and it should state that clearly. And then the other things, we've already agreed to those things before, right? And then if we want to raise the bar, we raise the bar internally with our superintendent and with our district goals.
No, I don't necessarily have objections to that. I think that I'm just trying to make sure that you guys see that that's different. That's all. That's the only reason I pointed it out, because we know what we liked before and we see what we have now. And so all I was doing in my reference was pointing out to you that the previous agreement only had the 3% increase as a requirement. But I want to make sure that you all know that the new agreement has the graduation rates, the literacy increases and things like that, and attendance, because it's connected to an MCL.
No, I'm glad you did that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, is it possible to just take what we have, like add what we have to, and then what's already been agreed on?
Yeah, and Dr. Griffin, my question for you would be, I don't necessarily see anything as it relates to the absenteeism or anything of that nature that's concerning to me or that I think that we can't accomplish as far as the attendance rates and things like that. But I want to ask you whether or not you think it's feasible. All of the measurements that you have noted here in those areas are feasible.
I do. One of
Okay.
the patterns two patterns that have come up in this process and in communication, the Berry and Risa liaison has spent quality time multiple times at the schools. And each of the principals and their teams have looked at some of these components that we're required to provide agreements and accountability measures for. Chronic absenteeism and attendance were those measures, and they noticed that there were patterns where attendance may not have been taken accurately, and they got clarification around what does absent really mean? Even if you're sick and you have a note, that is, we're penalized. That's an absence, no matter if the student is not in the building. That's true. So to your question, yes, I do believe they're feasible rates that we can attain, because now the teams at the schools, we have attendance teams at each schools. Now they know, okay, what does the law say about what it means to be present? What does the law say about what it means to be chronically absent? And now they've employed their teams to have plans to make sure that they're monitoring the attendance accordingly for all the students, and really putting in strategies in place to reduce the chronic absenteeism rates.
Okay, and then my other question for you, as it relates to what we're required of the board, as noted by some of our other trustees, we did include all Benton Harbor Area Schools board members and the superintendent. And so we did the trainings, but there was, for example, two of them that we did, two or three we did in one day that didn't count because one member wasn't present. Can you check with them to see if it can say a majority of the Benton Harbor Area Schools board members and superintendent, being that we are allowed to operate as a governing board and take votes with the majority? And so we would prefer that says a majority of the Board of Education. And then another update that I would like, it says in the first section, it says Michigan Association of School Boards or similar organizations, but then in the back end in the table, it just has MASB. I would prefer that the or similar organization is added there. So we're not bound to MASB. Cause there's other alternatives, like the one that there's one in, is it the urban education? Remember Singer, you sent me one that we could go to in Chicago? Huh? Yeah, there's one that's like it's like a MASB, but it's specifically for urban educations, institutions. And so they may have some trainings that we decide we want them to come in and do. I don't want us to be bound to MASB. Secretary Triplett.
Madam President, what's really concerning to me, and I just want to have an opportunity to go through this laser, page by page in comparison to the one, like I said, I don't know who put this one together, who typed it and what have you. So we got to make sure that we go through and look at it where it looks like this, which one was accepted by the state. So just to make sure that we're going through and looking at it where it says, instead of where it says Benton Harbor High School, it should have been Benton Harbor Area Schools. Also, but I have highlighted these percentages when you look at MLK, where on the M-STEP will increase, at least based on M-STEP, student ELA proficiency based on M-STEP will increase at least 13%. In the 18 months, 12%, 54% NWEA, 64%, 44 to 60%, 80%. Those percentages are absolutely too high for what we have seen historically. You can look at the data for the last 15 years and you will not see numbers like this. Not saying that, and I think that people mistook it and sat in it because we said 1% or because we said 3%, that they sat in it. These are goals that they can set internally. These numbers right here will set us up.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we need to, whatever the partnership agreement says, if the partnership agreement said that you have to, that was my question. Are they still at the 1 or have they moved it up to the 3? But regardless of what we're talking about for the partnership agreement purposes, that does not mean that the principal and the superintendent and Barry Rita get together and set goals that will take us there. When you look at this data, you cannot justify those high numbers with this whole, if you guys look back in the back of your booklet, everything in the back of this booklet is yellow. That means that they did not exceed the 5%, the bottom 5%. Over 90% of these things that's up in here. So that right there, we have to go back and make it clear on what it is that the partnership agreement say. It's not lowballing, it's being realistic. And I appreciate the boom, boom, boom. But do we have data? Okay, so what is 53% of the students at the high school that would have to have this? Or what is the 53%? How many students would that include? You know, so say for instance, if you have 100%, you have 100 students in the third grade, that means 50 of those students would have to be proficient. We don't have data like that. Or 80%, that means 80 of those students out of the 100 would have to be proficient. Those are too high. So I think that when we're talking about from a partnership, I mean, if they want to do it internally, that's fine. She want to use that as the superintendent want to use that as a marker for her with her administrators, that's fine. But for this partnership agreement, because if we don't, we cannot ever go back in these 3 years and change that. We will lose our school.
So Dr. Griffin, I know that we're clear that the 36-month benchmark minimum is 3% for the certain areas. But as it relates to the absenteeism, the graduation rates and things of that nature, do you know if there's a minimum or do they just want to see increase?
There's a minimum I can check.
Okay, can you check with them on that?
I just have to be signed by us.
Mm-hmm.
President Robinson,
Yes, ma'am.
this line that says support the superintendent. Just wondering if we could add a qualifier when operating in the best interest of the district. Support the superintendent when operating in the best interest of the district.
Mhm.
Okay, so Dr. Griffin, I would ask, I know it's Tuesday. I would think that it's Monday. Okay, God is good. I'm so used to meeting on Tuesday. I know that our deadline for getting this in would be Thursday, end of business. I would anticipate. Can you follow up with them on the question? You taking notes about the questions that we have? Okay. And then I would ask if you all could be flexible. Who is our curriculum committee currently? Oh, I know it's me, but it's the three of us. Can you it's me, myself, Arquette. Can we see if we can get a curriculum meeting scheduled maybe for Wednesday evening, if we're available, sometime before Wednesday evening, to go over the clarifications that you received. And then Secretary Triplett, I know that you're an educator as well. If you prefer, I can defer my seat to you. Yes,
A meeting on Wednesday evening.
we can maybe try for Tuesday. I just wanted us to meet prior to Wednesday. Hopefully she can get the clarifications tomorrow. And then we can do Tuesday evening.
It can be after
Again.
6:30.
So could it be, you mean like 7?
Yes.
Like a 7 o'clock, a quick hour meeting to kind of go through the clarifications? Would you like me to defer my seat to you?
I mean, you know, I just think it's fine. You know, it's fine, but I just want to make sure, I want to go through and I want to, you know, maybe I can get with the superintendent as
Yeah.
to do one-on-one, you know, just my concern and first of all, I would like to say for me, for to say, hey, you got somebody in here that want to say that they can do it.
Mhm.
And we're
I
gonna
think
push
that's
people to
amazing.
do it. But we also have to look at this right here, the very, very serious document. And again, that piece that they said, once you put that in here, you can't change it. And another thing too, we're in transition. We're in transition in many areas. We're in transition with administration. We're in transition of filling our staffing. And what have you, there's things that are being worked on as far as getting, the certified, qualified teachers, working with proximity learning, where we have the teachers who are the certified teachers who are teaching our kids and virtually, but in live, where people are in there working along with them, so that they're building the staff, the support staff to be able to support these certified teachers. So it's like kind of like still in its infancy. And so that would put a lot, and just being an educator, 5% is a hard move. It's a hard push, can be a hard push. When you have so many different things that we're dealing with, working with attendance, we got to get them in here. All those different types of things. I just think this right here, that's why I wanted us. I'm glad that we're here. Thank you to my colleague for showing up and saying, hey, this is something, we all bring something to the table. And thank you, Dr. Griffin, as well, for adding this in here. But from my experience as an educator, as a teacher, even when you have students even when we had like at Boynton, we had students that was 87% of our students may have been proficient on something, but the other 13 was very difficult for us to move into that category. You see what I'm saying? So I don't want you to put that pressure on you or your staff or on this district for those things.
I have a question as well. I know a lot of times I believe it's the individual, what are the individual plans for the districts?
The school improvement plan.
School improvement plans. Would it be feasible to have certain partnership agreement goals, agreement with the state, but then say it again, school improvement plan is aligned with the measurements that you want to meet? And I think that would be probably the measurement that would make your goals, because I want to honor your goals. I do appreciate your efforts in trying to hit high marks, but I also understand the concern of the board. And I think that if we indicate the goals as it relates to the partnership agreement to be the 3% in the 36-month benchmark, but our individual school improvement plans are aligned with the goal and measurements as you've indicated, then if we're still like they said, we can still we'll have something internally as a document where our buildings know, okay, this is what we're reaching for. We're not just reaching for the 1%, but we're reaching for above that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Madam President, and I don't know if you guys remember on the curriculum team last year, and prior to Dr. Griffin coming, we had pulled, there is it's called a DIP, Madam President,
Mhm.
the District Improvement Plan, and then it was the SIP, which is the School Improvement Plan. And so when we requested those, the District Improvement Plan should have this. The District Improvement Plan sets the standards for the district. And each of the individual schools should be aligned with the District Improvement Plan. But what we found out, I don't know if you remember this, but we found out everybody was doing something different.
Mhm.
Like their plan was doing something completely different, and it wasn't aligned with the District Improvement Plan. So it should not be, if the District Improvement Plan deals with reading, deals with truancy, deals with mathematics, then every school, they can do it any way that they want to, but they must hit those main things from their District Improvement Plan. So, I mean, and I know that you just hit the ground running, but those are the things that that would really, really help us.
Okay, and then before we,
Let's deal with the things that you especially need for your school,
mhm.
You do.
right? You may have some district things in there, but your school may not be lacking in attendance, so you have to put the things in your school improvement. Your individual school plan, things that your school needs. The district plan, like this partnership, actually, this almost could be the district school improvement plan too.
Just, Ms. Racket, the district plan,
Right,
if the district plan should have reading, math, that's what, and so every school
right.
can fall in. And because even if they might not have an attendance problem, but at that particular time, they can still do things to continue to maintain, but the district improvement plan guides the district.
Right, and
Yeah.
this should be part of it.
Okay.
Okay, the only thing that I wanna add is I had put in the back of everybody's binder, trustee Bradley was unable to make it, but he did send his feedback. So I printed a copy of that and I wanted to give honor to it because he's unable to be present. So he said, "Good morning or afternoon. I've taken a look at the partnership agreement and I have no issues with it. The majority of my questions have been answered after reading through it. I think my main concern would be just around the benchmark numbers and how we set the goal or benchmark moving forward. I know the agreement says working with the data, but will we have an attainable benchmark set? Basically aiming for something realistic, which we've kind of expressed here. The suggestion that I do have in section 16 under assurance of actions, part A for the board. Can we discuss having 4 quarterly MASB trainings during the course of the partnership agreement? This will ensure we are meeting the training requirements and will help to ensure that we have a standard of professional development if and when the board changes occur. I know that the current agreement says at the determination of the state superintendent, but I think the quarterly training will show that we are focused, united, and wanting to strengthen ourselves as a board. So I just wanted to ensure that everybody had his input to reference as well. So I think I want to take the time to thank you all for making yourselves available today, for being patient with me and going through each word of the agreement, because I think it's important that we go through this together. As said, the curriculum committee will have a meeting tomorrow at 7 p.m. virtually to kind of go over the clarifications that Dr. Griffin receives from MDE. And then she standard has a summary that she creates, notes that are taken as we meet that'll be shared with the board at large. And so if there is no further input, I will go to, you all can give additional input, of course, in your closing comments, but I'll go to open public comment. There's no one currently present. So we'll proceed. Superintendent announcements and comments.
I'd just like to thank the board for all of their input and guidance regarding this process, and I look forward to a mutually agreed upon draft to submit to the state.
All right, trustee Doyle.
Something today. Good evening, and I would like to thank everyone for watching. We have no one in the meeting as of right now. I would like to say that I'm truly honored that my community chose me to be the voice for the voiceless. I take great pride in the work that I've led and the powerful partnerships I've built to uplift others and get things done. Within the first 6 months of joining this board, we were able to get the boilers replaced. Since then, we've secured school debt forgiveness of over 14 million. We won 4 million for Love My Black Student Love Letter Initiative. With some monies coming to our district very soon. Yet, with these accomplishments, I am deeply saddened by the slow pace of progress and the misdirection of our energy and our attention, the neglect from our most important responsibility, our children. Staff and students have been asking for a track and field tent for 3 years, and still, as of now, we don't have one. Meanwhile, we have over 24 million in the bank. Why are the small things being looked over? I support professional development for everyone, and I believe that if the Board of Education approved a training and the district paid for it, those in leadership should be able to model it. I also support hiring a grant writer, but I do have concerns about the hiring process, especially as I am a member of the HR committee. These stories I've been hearing weigh heavily on me. Please know that your voice has been heard, and I am raising these concerns in the right places. It is important that you understand this. Even when I don't speak a lot, I am advocating for you. I am a Yes Fresh Start champion. If you have not taken the 90-day Peace Pledge, please do so at peaceday247.com and join a powerful movement. You guys enjoy the rest of your evening on purpose.
Trustee Raquel Martin.
I, I appreciate my colleagues and the fact that we are taking time to do this work. It is important. It is my hope and my endeavor to support whatever percentages we choose so that our district will make the increase it needs to make. So we'll, on the incline going up, so we no longer will have to even deal with a partnership agreement. So that's my hope that, like I said, whatever we choose, that our district as a whole at every individual building will continue to work hard and to do the work that it takes for us to come out of partnership with the state. That's my hope and prayer.
Thank you, Treasurer Gavin.
I'm grateful to my colleagues for having this meeting. It's so important for us to make sure that we have both internal, external goals, superintendent goals. And then when we're entering into a partnership with the state of Michigan, that we know who we're dealing with and that we understand the history. It matters. And that every word matters. And that when we're supporting the superintendent in the language, we clarify when operating in the best interest of the district. Because if we don't, we set ourselves up to allowing the state to dictate our role as a Board of Education. We have a responsibility to hold our employee accountable, not to just give a blanket support. And that doesn't mean we don't support the superintendent. It means that we support our school district. And we have a right to do that. We have a responsibility to do that. Boards supported superintendents when Gifted and Talented was closed, when Boynton Montessori was closed, when the skill and trade centers were closed. And so it is important when the dual language program was closed. And so this is not about personalities. It's about our responsibility as a Board of Education to make sure that we have the power that was invested in us by the voters. And we cannot allow these partnership agreements to set us up and to set our children up and to put our staff and everyone in this undue pressure to adhere to tests that don't really necessarily test the genius of our children. Now, do we have a responsibility to raise the bar? Absolutely, and I'm all for that, but not with a gun to our heads. So I want to thank you all. I also want to thank the City Council today for supporting the Yes Fresh Start 2026 priorities. This is powerful. We're talking about mental health funding. We're talking about supporting driver's education for all public schools. And we're talking about getting money for our CTE, and also supporting a mental health court in Berrien County. And so this is very powerful. I'll be bringing this through the board. And so I'm hoping that we too will support the Yes Fresh Start 2026 priorities. Thank you all very much. And yes, let's take the 90-day Peace for Life challenge at peaceday247.com because we all can use a little more peace in our life. Amen.
Secretary Triplett.
I need a little more peace in my life. No. I want to take this opportunity to say, and just again, thank you. Thank you all so much for coming out. Thank you to our superintendent for being willing to listen and to hear us and to work collaboratively with us on this partnership agreement. It's very, very critical, that we make sure that we do what's right for our children, for our staff, and for our community, and in particular for many of our alma mater. So again, thank you. I'm excited and looking forward to, hopefully everything will be together by Wednesday evening when the curriculum team and those of us individually, Dr. Griffin, if there's anything that I can do to assist along the way, I'm willing to move your hair back, Michelle, so I can see Dr. Griffin looking at her face. You look beautiful too. I want to tell you, I see the natural curls and what have you, but I could not see. It's beautiful. You went to the convention.
Yes.
But I do want to say that to our superintendent, I appreciate, and I don't want you to think, when I said it, because I know I'm like Treasurer Gavin. I've lived some of it. We all have, and we sat here, but when it's time to get down, we get down, including our president. When it goes too much, we do this thing. We love our community. We love our district. And so I'm just looking forward to continue fighting alongside of you all. Because I know if we ever get on one accord, that we got some goons at this table, the 8 of us. So thank you so much to all of our people out there. Be patient and continue to pray for us that we continue to do the things that's in the best interest of the Benton Harbor area schools. Thank you, Madam.
All right, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. I would like to say that I am a person of excellence, and I am not a person that likes to only reach for the bare minimum. However, I understand the board's concern regarding putting notational goals in the partnership agreement that may not be attainable. I support putting it as the minimum as long as we have a guarantee that internally our goals as it relates to our improvement plans for the district and our individual schools will be at measurements that will allow us to get out of the 5% mark so that we do not have to cycle back. If we can assure that we're gonna do that, then I'm perfectly fine with the partnership agreement maintaining the minimal expectation with the full understanding that internally as a district, we have something set in stone that we are going to supersede and make effort to meet higher than that. Because when you give people and your staff and your students a 1% goal, their goal is 1%. And so it would be my earnest desire that we do set those measurements higher so that we can get out of that 5% mark. I appreciate you all for making the time in your schedules, the quick turnaround to be here, because I think was it Thursday we just met?
Yes.
And everyone clearing their schedules to be here so that we can go through this. I appreciate your patience with me as I read through every detail of the document, because it's been 3 years since we combed through it as an organization, and I'm very critical about every fine aspect of a document that I'm signing. It's different when my full board makes a vote because each of us has an eye for something different. But when I'm signing by myself, that's a heavier weight to bear. And so it was very important to me that we had this discussion together. So I appreciate you all. I look forward to the curriculum committee meeting tomorrow. And then if there's anyone, like I said, that has not sent feedback to the superintendent, has additional thoughts after today's meetings, please follow up with her or myself. because we'll be signing as required by Thursday. So at this particular time, I'll ask, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second or support?
Support.
The motion has been made by Secretary Triplett and supported by Treasurer Gavin. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
Yes, Madam President, I wanted to say this before we close. The 1% or the 3%, whatever the state has allowed, is the minimum.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me be clear on that, because I do not, I'm like you. I do not, I fight hard. You know, our scores were 97%, 94%,
Mhm.
87% proficiency. So absolutely not, but I said, it says the minimum, but that is not our goal. Okay, so you have to at least get this amount. So then, and then the pressure comes from within. And not the pressure, but the work come from within. And we start going into looking at how many kids who take this test, how many would get us to 35%, how many must be proficient. But I wanted to say that the minimum, Madam President, so I don't want you to feel like you're settling or lowering your standards or anything seriously.
Mhm.
That's what it is, the minimum.
I
So
just-
I'm ready to call roll now.
Last thing, my apologies, I meant to mention this. I think it's also important to include in the partnership agreement the MDE's responsibility to share the impact of the previous partnership agreements on the success of the district, how reconstitution have impacted our district, our test scores, our attendance, the requirements for us to eliminate half of our staff, pink slip our staff, and force them to reapply for their positions during testing season. I think it's important for them to also take some responsibility in their decisions, and that should be in the agreement that they studied that and they provide that input to us as well.
Okay, Secretary Triplett, please call the roll for adjournment.
President Robinson,
Yes.
Secretary Triplett, yes. Treasurer Gavin,
Yes.
Trustee Racket Martin,
Yes.
Trustee Doyle.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Meeting adjourned as of 9:05 p.m. Have a great evening.
Thank you.